Hey everybody, it's Jason McLaren with the Leadership Loading Podcast. Today's episode is Leadership and Getting Unstuck. I've got a guest today, Sue Bowles, and she's a master certified life coach, speaker, and award-winning author. She leads a program called My Step Ahead, committed to breaking the stigma around mental health issues. You know, one of the things that we talk about on this podcast is veterans transitioning into the public sector, and some of those mental health issues will hold us back. And I think we can talk about that today. She provides one-on-one and group life coaching for those feeling stuck in life and trying to help them take that next step into seeing their dreams. So Sue, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Jason. Looking forward to it.
Definitely. So, a little bit more about yourself. Tell us, what you're doing over there at My Step Ahead and all that.
Sure. My Step Ahead is here to help other people take their next step. Oftentimes we feel stuck in what we're doing. We feel like something's just out of reach. We don't know how to get there. We don't know if we can get there. We lose a lot of self-confidence because of our past. And My Step Ahead is here to help people take that next step. You only have to be a step ahead to help the person behind you. It is our motto. It's what we build everything around. And oftentimes we like to think that we have to have it all figured out, whatever that means, before we can be of worth anywhere. And that's not the case. My Step Ahead is here to simply say, you have worth right now with where you are in life. And while you're still figuring things out, you can still take your next step to get where you want to go.
Definitely. And I think that those trying to move into different careers, which, most of the people listening to this show are doing, or moving out of something that they've trained their whole life for, maybe they think, oh, well, this is all I can do. This is all I trained for. Or like we talked about, some mental health issues or something. For those that are kind of feeling that stigma and feeling that chain down, like you say on your program, for those that are feeling that, how can they be good enough, basically?
Mm-hmm. I think, first of all, everyone has worth right now. And again, just feeling as if you're not good enough is a lie, and needing to stop that where it is and turn it around, do a 180 with that is the first step. Because if we stay stuck where we are right now, we are not going to get anywhere. You're not going to be able to pursue what you want to pursue, do what you want to do, and dream what you want to actually dream. So we have to be able to break out of that mold. And what I challenge people with is the first hard step is daring to believe that you matter. That's the first step, because if you don't take that step, even when you don't feel it, but you have to dare to believe. When someone dares you, they're asking you to take a risk. So for me, anyone who wants to be able to get rolling where they want to go, it comes down to that, daring to believe that you matter, even when you don't feel it. And then starting to operate in that. And then as confidence builds, as skill builds, then the momentum starts building. And then before you know it, you're off and running. But it has to start with that first step of what are you telling yourself and what are you believing about yourself?
Definitely. I personally faced some of those issues when I was transitioning out of the military. I joined the military, I was a firefighter, and I did that for 7 years and said, well, this is what I'm going to do. And then I got out of the military and I was like, I'm going to be a firefighter. And I tried to get firefighter jobs and couldn't get it. And I was just in that rut. And then, just trying to figure out what I was going to do. And I ended up having to take a low paying job and just thought, well, I'm stuck here and this is what I'm going to have to do. Fortunately, I had good mentors and good coaches, and they kind of got me out of that rut and said, you don't have to be a firefighter just because that's what you've been doing. And, I expanded on what I did in my career. And one of my mentors at the time said, don't pigeonhole yourself. Don't just think firefighting. There's a lot of things you do in your firefighting career that relate to other career fields. And that's kind of how I broke out of that.
Right.
But I think that kind of leans into that process.
Right. It comes down, you're talking about mental health, and mental health and leadership are so key, because it comes down to the self-talk. It comes down to, what are we telling ourselves? We're listening to ourselves. And I hope that we are giving ourselves the positive news and word that we need, because we're listening to ourselves even more than others do. We're with ourselves 24/7. Others aren't. So it comes down to, what are we telling ourselves? And what is that based out of? Is it fact, or is it fiction? Is it something where we are interpreting based off of events, or is it really the case? And a lot of mental health starts with taking a hard look at yourself. That doesn't mean that there aren't mitigating factors. There are, but ultimately it comes down to, what are we believing about ourselves? Because that core foundational pivot point then is a launch pad for everything else.
Definitely. And speaking of launch pad, a lot of people have a launch pad. They have something they can lean on to kind of boost them up. So what about people that feel like they don't have anything? Like maybe they had a career field, or they just don't have a degree or something. If they don't have anything to offer to them, how can they make a difference and move forward from that?
I think it's a great question, and it's often a question that traps so many people. They feel pigeonholed and stuck. That's what we're talking about, is how to get unstuck. And I think one of the first steps is looking at what else, what do you enjoy? I have a presentation I do called Who Am I? And we talk about our values, and we talk about, we take the word habit and we flip it on its head. Habit has a negative connotation. Instead, we look at it at behaviors in line with our values, because when we know who we are, when we have our values, when we know what's important to us, and then we act in those values, then we can look at, okay, so how can I exercise these values? If I value interpersonal communication, then how can I operate within that? And where are some different areas I'm already doing that, where I get energy, as compared to, I have to go talk to this person. So just, again, mindset and how we look at something makes a huge difference. Even if something as simple as looking at a habit and making it a positive thing, that it's a behavior in line with your value, makes it all the difference in the world and how we view things. And then that changes what we allow ourselves to consider doing.
I like that, taking like your habit or your hobby maybe, and kind of leaning into that. A lot of people, like you said, maybe it's public speaking, maybe you don't mind talking to people. You can move into like a sales role or a business development role, which is kind of the better non-salesman type role, and get into something like that. Or if you're good at making things, working in the wood carving industry or something like that. I think with coronavirus, we've seen a lot of people come out with their hobbies and build out, their own business and go forward from there. And so that's a good way to lean into it.
I think another thing is, when we know what we enjoy doing, all of us have things we have to do. But when we get to the point that our job or our career is draining us more than it is filling us, then that's a red flag, or at least a caution flag, to really start doing some evaluation of, okay, have I done everything I can do in this field? And is it time to either find something outside of work that's going to fill me up and balance out that fulcrum again? Or is it time to start looking at something else? And if it's time to start looking for something else, what is it that excites me at this stage of my life? I think one of the reasons we feel stuck is because we don't allow ourselves to change with the times and change with our life development. Not everyone is meant to be in the same field the entire time. Many people have many careers and many jobs throughout their lifetime, because they're finding, as they grow and develop, as their previous job has developed them, that then becomes a stepping stone to the next point. And I think sometimes being unstuck helps. It starts with just giving ourselves permission to think outside, to think of other things, and to give ourselves permission to dream. But not only dream, but to then chase that dream and figure out what it is that I need to do. What's my next step? What's my next step ahead to reach where I want to get?
Yeah, that kind of goes on my next question. So we talked about using past experiences as a step, but you don't always have to use your past experience. You can, sometimes you just have to take the leap and jump to something totally different. And so that kind of leads into, what is the value of life coaching? Because that's when you start being out to a life coach and kind of trying to get some feedback.
Right. The value of life coaching is an opportunity to have someone walk with you and help you discover what is already inside you that you may not realize. Life coaching is the art of asking questions and getting to know someone and draw from their experience and help them see, what have they experienced? What did they get from that experience? And then, what do they want, where they want to use that? How can that be used in different avenues? That life coaching is helping people take that next step. I have a client who in middle of COVID was very social anxiety is a big thing. So he was very concerned about going out of the apartment, and he wanted to reach out to somebody and just have coffee with them. And he was concerned about that. So we talked about what he was comfortable doing, what the setting was, what time of day it was, where he would want to go, what he envisioned. We worked through all of his fears. He made that appointment. He had coffee. He had some of the silence in the conversation that he was afraid that was going to happen, but he got through that. And he came back the next week with a huge smile on his face. And he said, now I think I want to have lunch with them. And then he had lunch with them. And now he's gotten to the point he wants to be a leader in his church. All because life coaching helped him look at where he was, where he wanted to go, and step by step, we picked it apart to find what he was comfortable in doing, helped him exercise that, celebrated his victory with it, and then use that as the stepping stone to get to the next point. That's the power of life coaching.
Yeah, I think a lot of the listeners on our podcast may be thinking, well, there's a stigma to life coaching. Like a lot of us, we've been through the military, we've been through firefighting, or police officers. We're usually the coaches, right? We're usually the one coaching other people. So kind of building off that and taking those examples, like you said, having coffee with people or lunch, maybe it might not be having lunch or coffee, but maybe doing something that you don't normally do with other people outside your coaching to kind of break out and work on your skills in those other areas might be something they need to work on.
Right. And I think I think with that stigma around life coaching, especially with the service branches, either military or firefighter or first responders, we're used to being, you're used to being on. You're used to being the person that other people go to. But there's nothing, it's okay to not be okay, because Superman and Superwoman are fictional characters. And let me say, there is a difference between therapy and life coaching. Therapy deals with stuff from the past to bring you to the present. Life coaching takes you from the present to help you get where you want to go. So there are very clear delineational lines between what I can help with and what is more better suited for therapy. And I think a lot of the mental health stigma has to do around therapy, but life coaching might be about goals. It might be about communication skills. It might be about relational issues and how to be a better communicator, how to be a better spouse, how to better communicate with your spouse. It might be time management. It might be financial management. It could be, social anxiety. It could be any number of things. But there is that difference between life coaching and therapy. And I wanted to make sure we clarified that, because sometimes not understanding that difference is the stigma that people think they're stuck under.
Yeah, I'm glad you clarified that, because that was something I hadn't delineated yet. And I agree that, therapy or counseling is more for past issues, and then you have your future things that you want to work on. So.
Right. And that's just it. Life coaching helps you operate better in the present so that you can be the most powerful person and most effective person you are right now, so that in whatever setting you're in, you are able to operate at your optimum, be that in the office, be that at home, be that as a coach on the weekends for your kids' soccer team. Whatever it is, coaching helps you operate at your maximum in the present. And isn't that what we all want? None of us want to operate at 80% or 70 or 60%. So life coaching helps us be able to tap that out so that we really are being our best for somebody else, because it's really, when you get down to the crux of it, that's what leadership is about, is being our best to help others. And if we are not taking care of ourselves and helping ourselves be our best, how are we going to help elevate the other people we're working with?
Definitely. All right. If you had 1 minute to give someone a leadership tip, you're stuck in an elevator with them on a ride, what would you say?
Great question. And I would simply say this: dare to believe that you matter. Dare to believe that right now, right where you are, with whatever life experience you have something of worth right now. You don't have to have it all figured out. You can be of worth and value right now, with whatever experience you have, including whatever struggles you have. And with that, you can then go out and change your world one step at a time. I think a lot of times we try to just rock it out and go do it all. But if you think about what it takes to get a rocket to blast off, there's a lot of small steps that happen first. So my elevator encouragement to someone would be to take the risk, even when you don't feel it, and dare to believe that you matter, and surround yourself with people that tell you that as well.
Perfect. I think that's great. Believing that you matter it's useful for everyone, obviously, but some people that have struggles, they definitely need that. So, all right. And you have a book? I forgot to mention that earlier.
I do. Here, let me show it to you here. It is called My Step Ahead, This Much I Know, the Space Between. And it is it's on Amazon and Kindle. It came out in 2019. And it shares my story. It shares, I have a lot of trauma in my background. And odds are that someone listening has something in their background as well that is a trauma. I share mine pretty openly. And then I share the healing journey that I had to go on. For the longest time, I had a lot of life events that I let define me. And those events held me back. That was what was helping me, that was causing me to feel stuck, was because I let life events define me. And as I did the hard work of healing, now I define the effect those events have on me. And now that those events now allow me to do what I'm doing now through life coaching, through podcasting, through speaking and conferences and everything. So it's the book talks about that journey, and it talks about what's involved in that hard work of healing. And if there's trauma in your background, for any of us, the first step is we have to own our story. All of us have something that we don't like about our story. But if we're in denial about it, that's part of what's helping us stay stuck. We have to own our story. And then because our story usually has some kind of loss to it, we have to grieve that story. Because that, again, is part of what those emotions that get tied up is part of what is causing us to feel stuck. And after we own the story and grieve it, then we are able to better embrace that daring to believe that you matter. Because then the past doesn't have the hard grip on you that it does. Usually when we are feeling stuck is because of something in the past that we are holding on to. And as we learn to deal with that appropriately and let it go, and sometimes that even means forgiving ourselves and learning to like ourselves again, then we don't feel as stuck. That's when you start feeling that momentum. That's when that leadership really starts kicking in. You start really being the leader that you dream to be.
Definitely, like you said, that's available on Amazon. We'll put the link in the show notes below.
Amazon and Kindle.
All right. And how can people get in touch with you if they want to find out more?
Yeah, the best place is on my website. It's SueBowles.com. It's BOWLES. I'm sure I'll have all the links in there. I have I have a lot of different tip sheets that I like to send out. The tip sheet of the month this month is how to feel unstoppable and unshakable, and just some ideas about things to think about for yourself. So they can go to SueBowles.com, send me a message. I'll get that to them, be happy to get that to them. Through there as well, if they're interested in life coaching or speaking, they can certainly get a hold of me there and we can set something up there. But SueBowles.com is the best place. I am on social media under Sue Bowles Coaching, and then under the business name, My Step Ahead. It's on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Sue. Thanks for coming on the show today.
All right. Thank you, Jason. Appreciate it.